if crypto is the next wave of innovation within financial services, does something have to make way? Are there parts of finance that are going to be replaced?
Absolutely. In a one-word answer, traditional finance is very siloed. A whole lot of reasons for that. It absolutely is that a lot of players in that space are protecting their turf. They don't want the profits that they've been making to be exposed. They don't want to give some of that away to a new age and a new technology that is just going to break all of that down and create a whole lot of new markets. And we are able to start to blend traditional finance with digital finance. Now is the time for people to be getting into the industry. Now is the time for people to be finding players that they're comfortable with, because if not, they're going to be left with legacy financial services players that are not going to be able to offer them the best opportunities to get ahead.
G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Tapping Into Crypto. We've got a bit of a different episode today. I'll start by introducing my co-host, who we haven't seen in a while, very familiar face and voice, Mr. Tommy Honan.
Hello everyone, I'm back for another episode. Really excited for this one today. Got another special guest that's not me, which is great.
Well, mate, we always love having you back, and I think it's once a quarter you make an appearance on the podcast. So
yeah, my quota is a little bit behind for the year. I think I need to catch up on that one. But we'll get
to pick it up. You've been away, so that's okay, Tommy. We'll forgive you. But today we are joined by crypto royalty, as the Australian newspaper would describe it. We're joined by Swyftx CEO Jason Titman. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys, for that. Looking forward to it. My first time on the show, but I've certainly listened to it many times before. So looking forward to having this chat today.
Fantastic. And how does it feel to be labelled as the new king of crypto by the Australian?
Well, that was a bit of a shock. I wasn't exactly expecting that. As much as I've been really immersing myself in the crypto industry for the last couple of years, I think it's probably reflective of a bit of a new breed coming in as well into the industry. Certainly the journalists have been quite keen to have a chat to me for a while, so it was an opportune time, I thought, to start expanding a little bit about what was going on. Look, I think maybe, that was a little bit of an overreach just at this point in time. However, what I will say is I'm very excited about the journey that Swyftx is on. I'm very excited about the opportunity for the industry, where it's going, and for investors in the industry. So, yeah, I think I do intend to have a lot of influence in the industry. I'm certainly becoming a bit more outspoken with our regulators and with politicians on both sides, trying to educate them to the industry. So maybe I'll grow into the title.
Love it. Big shoes to fill. So over the career, you've been a COO, CFO, CCO, and now you're CEO of Swyftx. But today we want to really get some insights around the industry, Swyftx, regulation, things happening behind the scenes. But first of all, we want to learn a little bit more about yourself, Jason. So first question we try and ask guests when they come on the show is, what was your first crypto purchase, and do you still have it today?
First purchase was BTC. Definitely have it today, and definitely have a lot more of it today than I had when I first started, and have started, for a while now, I've been investing into a number of other coins. But yeah, BTC, that Bitcoin was my first.
When was the first? When was that, Jess, do you reckon?
I think that was back in 2021. So, by the schemes of many people, a late adopter, but by the scheme of many others, an early adopter. So
look at the market. It's a perfect time to buy, right at the
I was pretty happy crash. With when I got in, that's for sure. Yeah. I've been pretty happy with the rise I've had.
Wonderful. And before we get into some questions on the market, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming Swyftx CEO?
Look, I first met Alex about 4 years ago, and then got introduced to Angus and was kind of quite excited about what they were doing and stayed in touch. Came on board about 2 years ago, and lots of different exciting things and challenges that Swyftx was going through, and I started to kind of work with the guys, and I guess really I bought into the energy that they had. Mm-hmm. I bought into this idea of democratizing financial freedom and being a lot more transparent with customers. And I thought that was just a great way to be, because having had a lot of experience in traditional financial markets, that's not something that I saw there. I was also very excited about this opportunity of moving into a regulated space. So moving us from unregulated into the regulated and what that journey would entail. And really excited about how I can see the DeFi and TradFi could come together. So So started working with the guys, with the team here, and we started kind of coming to that realization, I guess, that I was really starting to immerse myself in what Swyftx was doing, the journey. And I think Alex and Angus were kind of keen for me to help them and help everyone move us to the next level.
Absolutely.
Love it. I think I've worked obviously pretty closely with you, Jason, over the last 2 years. I've made no secret of the fact that I think you're one of the busiest men I've ever met in my life. I think there's some misconceptions about CEO and people as they move through the titles and through the ranks of companies that you do less. I think that's definitely not true in your case. You're the first person in the door in the morning and the last one to leave in the evening. Obviously, your ute parked outside, so I think that's great. I think it's the CEO title. A lot of people I think have misconceptions in general about. It's kind of glorified, I think, in a lot of spaces where it's really a culmination of a lot of the worst problems and the biggest problems to solve as a business. So like it's quite a heavy one to carry, and it's something a lot of people, probably listeners, you don't always think. You always think, I want to be the CEO, I want to be an entrepreneur and do this and that, and it's a tough slog. I can see it, I guess, from the seat that I'm sitting on watching you in action.
Look, Tommy, I think that's a great observation. You're right. A lot of us, even myself early in the career, kind of aspiring to this CEO or aspiring to it. When you get there, it can actually be a pretty lonely space. You're kind of sandwiched in between your team that you have to represent to them. You're sandwiched in between your board and shareholders that you're also beholden to, and then also the external market and customer and supplier expectations. So, yes, it can be extremely rewarding. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted.
That's right.
And it's definitely not a role that you would take on if you wanted to bludge or loaf. Typically CEOs are generally coming a little bit more along in their life's journey, but it's not one where you'd be put out to retirement for that.
Has it always been like that, do you think, Jess? Like, you've obviously come from numerous different industries and worked across different types of businesses and internationally. Has it always been like that, or is it like a new version of a CEO now is like, I guess, more in it than they were previously? Do you think that's fair?
Look, I think the intensity, just like everything in life, but I think the intensity of a CEO has been elevated,
right.
3, 4, 5x. Part of that is because technology enables us to move faster. Mm-hmm. Technology gives a lot more visibility. And with technology, we've got feeding in of data from so many different sources and inputs. And you're so much more visible now. To be a successful CEO, it's not just about managing what's going on inside the business. It's the external stakeholder relationships and the expectations of market. Now, I think a lot of that sort of stuff, you've got to ultimately be true to yourself, and you've got to have a strategic direction and stick to it. But there's a lot more sensitivities internally and externally, I think, now, and scrutiny. Much of it is good, but it can be distracting. And I think as a CEO, your job is to kind of filter out what is potentially distracting and stay true to your vision, but also absorbing that feedback and trying to have some emotional intelligence and emotional connection with your internal team and your external stakeholders.
I think accessibility is a big thing. The CEO previously, in movies, I guess, when you used to watch movies as you're a kid coming up, you'd always think about the CEO up in the ivory tower or locked away in the back office and there's no access. Like, you sit with our customer support teams, you're sitting with our product team and all our engineers. Like, that kind of accessibility and visibility is so important today, especially in brands like Swyftx. We are a younger company and we are that type of, I guess, leading brand in market in Australia.
Look, Tommy, I think it's a great observation, and it depends on your target audience. But I think for the tapping into crypto target audience, many of them wouldn't have seen the old style, 1980s and prior CEO that was glorified. And they used to kind of talk about things. If you wanted to get a friend in business, get a dog. That was the attitude. We've moved on a lot from that. It was the glorified CEO who was hidden away in the room and made all of those decisions that wouldn't speak to the graduates or wouldn't speak to people who first started. And, I know parts of my career when I first started like that, there was a definite element that you didn't speak to people in senior roles. I think it's really healthy that we've broken that down. We should be. It's a lot flatter in organisations. My situation here at Swyftx is that I actually have 2 desks. I sit on for some of the week over with the commercial side of the business. The other half of the week, I spend some time over with the product and with the engineering teams because I want to be visible. I want to hear their feedback, and I want to be accessible.
What does a typical day look like for you? I know, yeah, we obviously are in and out of meetings together at times, but I guess what does that kind of typical day look like for you, if there is such a thing in the crypto space?
Well, typical day in a CEO is not actually always the same old. I can assure you about that. If you're looking for that, you don't want to take on the CEO role. There's always having a bit of capacity there for things that might crop up. But having said that, if I remember to go to bed, I do normally get up at 5 a.m. So that's a typical day. I love to get up. Certainly check the messages if anything urgent has come through that I haven't sort of addressed, but certainly then love to get into a bit of exercise. For me, exercise, love a healthy breakfast, usually into calls by about 7:30, so I'll try and get a few calls out of the way then. Certainly put a batch of my time aside to emails and all of the other channels in which messages come through. It's pretty helpful having a great EA that kind of works for me and helps sift things through. Usually during the day, my time is full up with meetings. I am literally on the run, being as productive as I can, whether it be video calls or in-person meetings. So usually there's a quick coffee along the way, there's a quick lunch, but there's very seldom is lunch much longer than half an hour. And usually that's spent on my phone, reading some of the various publications or media outlets that I'll try and keep up with some of the news, or catching up with some of the Swyftx team. Afternoon kind of powers into a whole lot more meetings. Usually before I leave the office, I'll spend some time again trying to catch up on emails, go home, spend some time with the family, or I might have an evening event. Usually I'll have that a couple of times a week. And then sort of another hour or so before I go to bed, I will be back into kind of checking emails, messages, and making sure that I'm looking at my kind of calendar for the next day, so that I've got a little bit of subconscious mind ticking over about what the day is going to look like.
Apart from that, pretty relaxed.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say, I'm just exhausted hearing that.
Tired listening to that. Yeah. What a journey. Let's change gears, Jess. Let's talk about the industry.
Are we slowing down or are we speeding up?
I think we're speeding up. We're definitely throttle up now.
Throttling up. Moving on to the industry.
Yep. I guess a general question, and I think you're pretty well ingrained within the industry in Australia now already, and I've been representing Swyftx in many forums, which is great to see. What's the kind of biggest misconception that you think people have about crypto that's still alive and well today?
I'll probably once again qualify that by talking about the target audience. If you talk about it generally out there to the population, I think people are accepting that crypto is starting to become more mainstream. Misconception, there's still a lot of people out there that think that it's kind of, used for nefarious activities and stuff. These are people that are not yet exposed to the industry. So it's still breaking that down. Media hasn't helped a lot with that. The media just loves anything that sensationalizes things. The other thing I think is that people are thinking of it just as an asset class. And for me, it's so much more than an asset class. It's going to become, or it already is, a medium of payment. Yes, it's an asset class. It's facilitating the growth of so many other aspects. And cryptography and everything, as we start to look at the resurgence eventually of NFTs when they start to come back, when we see the tokenization of real-world assets and how crypto is going to play in that, what we're seeing with crypto and gaming, it is just enabling so many more things. So I think the misconception is that people are either into crypto or not into crypto yet, and they have just one singularity view of what crypto is, but is so much bigger than that.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I've got a lot of friends that have kind of varying feelings about the market. People you've been trying to get over the line on it for some time.
We've all got some of those.
Yeah, we've all got them. Working in the space full time myself now, almost 6 years, and gone on that journey with a lot of different friends from different backgrounds, traditional finance, and a lot of them still struggle with it. Even today, when we've got ETFs doing billions and dollars of inflow volume, kind of the transition is, in our mind, I guess, sitting on the Swyftx side and being in the industry, it's quite clear where it's all going. It seems, where we have conviction behind this is a new asset class, this is a brand new structured market that we're going to be dealing with for, years to come.
I mean, I've obviously had a career, well before crypto was even invented by Satoshi, but I have people that kind of say to me, what are you doing getting involved in this industry? And these are well-educated people. They just haven't spent the time understanding it. But those who start to understand it really get excited about where it is. What I've seen in the last couple of years, though, is a lot of the movers and shakers and the intelligent people in financial services, in finance, that are starting to move over to the crypto industry. I'm seeing a lot of people that I was around before in the e-commerce industry, a lot that I was around in the payments industry, all starting to move into this industry. So it's actually getting a wave of talent starting to move in, and we're going to see a real change. It still hasn't been getting that kind of coverage from the media. The media still wants to get hung up on what happened to the industry, through this latest crypto winter that we've been going through, and all of the negative things that they can hang their hat on. But the industry is moving. And I know what we're doing here behind the scenes at Swyftx. There's a lot of exciting things that are actually happening and are starting to change the industry.
Yeah, I think it's
really positive way.
It's a good point you talk about, like the bridge between crypto and TradFi, and I guess that whole question of if crypto is the future, if crypto is the next wave of innovation within financial services, does something have to make way? Like, are there parts of finance that are going to be replaced by like digital assets and I guess the technology behind it, in your mind?
Look, absolutely, in a one-word answer. In a more structured kind of response to that, what I would say is that traditional finance is very siloed. Whole lot of reasons for that. It absolutely is that a lot of players in that space are protecting their turf. They don't want the profits that they've been making to be exposed. They don't want to give some of that away to a new age and a new technology that is just going to break all of that down and create a whole lot of new markets. That's number one. To be somewhat sympathetic to the industry, a lot of it's built on legacy systems, which are really, really hard and complex to change. But hey, that's their problem to solve for. The exciting thing for us is that we are new age, we are tech, and we are building really savvy systems that have great user experiences. We're able to break down those user silos. We're able to be more transparent, and we are able to start to blend traditional finance with digital finance. And I guess that's something I'm particularly excited about, Tommy. We've had lots of conversations around that. A lot further to go, but yeah, absolutely. I think, now is the time for people to be getting into the industry. Now is the time for people to be finding players that they're comfortable with, because if not, they're going to be left with legacy financial services players that are not going to be able to offer them, the best opportunities to get ahead.
What are you kind of most excited about in terms of like projects or particular sectors of the industry that are growing or, have the most amount of opportunity in your eyes?
And I think that's important to say, what am I most excited about? Because there are lots of areas that I'm excited about.
That's right.
While I think it will still take time, I'm most excited about the tokenization of real-world assets. We already have essentially tokenization of securities and equities. I mean, if you put it in the most simple terms, that's what it is. You can have a little piece of a big company. But with real-world assets, to have a little piece of infrastructure or something like that is much more difficult to do a lot of times. So I think in this day and age when we have cost of living issues that we're dealing with, housing issues, big infrastructure issues around energy and transition to green energy and those sorts of things, that tokenization of real world assets, giving individuals the opportunity to buy pieces of all of these projects is what I'm most excited about, that I can sort of see coming.
I was on a panel about real world assets about 6 months ago, and we were talking about, fractional ownership of a house as an example. We're all well aware, people in Australia, of the issues with housing and the barriers to entry and the steep vertical that people have to climb now to try and save deposits for houses and everything else. And somebody made the comment from the crowd, it was like, who's going to live in the house? And I thought it was brilliant because I actually didn't know the answer at the time. It's like, I'm assuming it's a majority owner that has rights, but I guess all these kind of things still need to be worked out. But it's the fact that you can get on that property ladder with, very small amount of capital essentially versus what we have today. And that's just one example
and look, we could really talk into that in a lot of examples. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that the people will do it. Yeah. I think the fractionalization or the tokenization may very well lend itself to shared community assets. It may very well lend itself to rental properties in the example of the house, that we can have a tokenization of multiple rental properties that are put into a rental pool, and we may still not tokenize our own principal place of residence and things like that. But to your point, Tommy, absolutely. And that's what sort of keeps me so excited. It's one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning, as well as the fantastic team that we've got here at Swyftx. But it is certainly the opportunity to be participating in this thought leadership and evolving and being part of something that is actually going to change the way people live moving forward. We don't have all the answers yet.
It feels like an extension of like the share economy of what Uber started and Airbnb started, and these things. It's like, I can be living in a house that is owned by 10 people. As an example, I think that's a lot closer than what we think today.
The biggest transportation company of people in the world doesn't own any cars. Uber.
Yeah.
The biggest hotel or overnight accommodation company in the world doesn't own the properties, being Airbnb. This is a real mind shift.
Yeah.
It's been around now for 10 to 15 years, but what else could be done? What else are we going to see? And what I say to people, and it's been my philosophy for investing in my life, if you want to understand an asset class, and if you want to understand something, go and put some of your money there. Yeah. You're not going to put it all there probably, but you want to put some of it there. You want to put some, and you want to participate. Don't try and sit on the sidelines and think you either understand an industry or don't. Put some money in there, go and actively participate, and start experimenting to the level that you're comfortable with.
Learn by doing.
Learn by doing.
Yep.
And you will actually see the opportunities. It was like people that have wanted to trade in the past in carbon credits and things like that. You can't sit on the sideline and learn this stuff.
Yep.
You've actually got to be participating.
Yep.
And I think that is why you're seeing so many Gen Y and millennials participating in crypto and the digital assets. They get this stuff. It's been the Gen Xers, baby boomers and others that have been, frankly, too conservative, and they haven't been prepared to step outside their comfort zone. They've only wanted to kind of, know what they know, and it's held them back. Yep. In getting ahead financially, quite frankly.
Just on that note, like portfolio diversification, like you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, whether it's, stocks, real estate, crypto, but you do want to diversify into multiple asset classes, right? Because it gives you more of a spread across all those commodities and assets. So
look, as the CEO of Swyftx, I would love every Australian to have some crypto on our platform.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want all of their portfolio invested in crypto.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I would say.
Absolutely.
And I would want them to think about tried and tested rules such as DCA, so the dollar cost averaging of investing and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Think about that. Educate yourself. I mean, Swyftx has done a lot of work on education. One of the biggest frustration things at the moment is in a market where we haven't yet been able to get government regulation, where we've got 20% of the population already invested, another 20% saying they want to invest pretty soon, trying to get that financial planning advice. But, there are some great people coming out there, though, on the influencer space, and some of those affiliates that really are understanding this asset class, and they're putting some genuine advice and giving people some genuine, thoughts around the area. So, yeah, there's lots of different options to educate yourself.
Yeah, wonderful. So we've heard about the industry now. We want to dive into Swyftx. You are at the driver's seat of the Swyftx ship. So we want to try and uncover some insights that you have behind the scenes, uncovering, because there's 800,000 users at Swyftx now. So that is a huge data pool of, particular bits of information that you can give us, potentially something that our listeners can take away, because, a lot of our listeners are Swyftx users as well. So something they might find interesting as well. First of all, what are people mostly trading right now? Are they more, are they diving into the altcoins because it's, high risk, high reward, or are they more sticking to the blue chips, your Bitcoin, Ethereum, even like stablecoins and things like that? What's that sort of looking like?
We haven't yet seen the market really hit its straps in terms of another bull market yet. We certainly see some different segments of our customer base investing across different areas. There's some altcoins that are bubbling away. There are definitely some gems out there. There are some that have been pretty strong for a while. We've seen Solana go on a big run. We've seen Sui go on a big run. In terms of the BTC and the ETH, well, I think, there's been some disappointment in ETH for a while there, but BTC has really been coming strong. So look, there's a lot more people at the moment still floating around in the longer held and the traditional tokens that we've got.
The blue, apparently we're calling them blue chips now.
The blue chips.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
We've broken we've broken the barrier into traditional finance
and people are now
terminology.
calling them blue chips.
That's right.
So there are definitely a lot more people at the moment. But I'm certainly starting to see, and we're seeing across the platform now, that people are starting to see some of these altcoins that are bubbling up, and they're getting a bit excited because they kind of are waiting for this altcoin season to come back. So people are positioning their portfolios, we think.
Feels strange, Ted asking us questions, Jason, about the market when he's running the other side of the podcast. I know you and Pav have been talking a fair bit about the Bitcoin dominance chart and how that's playing out, and there's definitely an expectation in market that Bitcoin has its run, and then not that a rising tide lifts all boats, but generally there's a bit of a lag where a lot of that value then flows from Bitcoin essentially down into the alts, and then we get that kind of an alt season, and that's, I guess, what truly signals the bull run, when everything is going wild and there's a lot of high percentage consecutive days and weeks and months. So I think to your point, Jason, we definitely haven't seen that yet. I think there's a lot of people sitting on their hands potentially. A lot of value has moved into stable coins in the market. We often see USDC, Circle and Tether printing stable coins.
I think there's no doubt about
the value is coming from
coins.
somewhere. The value is coming from somewhere.
And I think potentially institutions are starting to deal more in stable coins. So I think the cross-border trade is happening there. I think some of the big whales in the industry are starting to look at stable coins and what's happening with that. So you're right. There is a lot happening on the stable coin front too.
Yeah. And we looked at a A16Z report the other day, and they said that the stable coins have found product market fit over any other, use case in crypto. So, I mean, you said it yourself, Jason, like even major institutions, banks are using stable coins, less fortunate countries than ours, with hyperinflation, things like that, they'll often put their funds into stable coins because it's so much more accessible than buying like real US dollars or even, it's more, it's less volatile than holding their own currency from their country.
100%. And there's no doubt that there are global and political conversations across many countries about their own CBDCs.
Yep.
But some governments and some populations aren't wanting to go there, and the flow is going into stablecoins, and that's where it's staying. So there's a good chance that the stablecoin market will just continue to grow and grow and start to push back any of that narrative for CBDCs. I mean, there are already some out there. There will be more, but it will be interesting to see where stablecoins go against that.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit like low-key disappointed that stablecoins is like the big innovation that we're talking about has came out of the whole movement in general.
No, we're talking about
such a great use case it's such a great use case and a use case that solves a lot of problems. Essentially, that's what we have to think about. It's not what's the next cool thing, what problems are actually being solved.
Well, I think for me, coming from so many traditional areas of business, but at the same time, spending a lot of time seeing the emergence of e-commerce as an industry, and now seeing the emergence of crypto tokens, which I see will move into real world asset tokenization and digitization of so many more things. For me, I see it as an asset class, but I see it as use cases. And yes, there are the white papers on all of these tokens and coins as well that have use cases, but there's also a real world use case, and that's what I see is starting to happen with so much more crypto. So I think that's what's kind of, you talk about the boring stuff with stablecoins. I get it. Maybe not heaps of innovation, but what that is reflecting is this industry is starting to pick up steam and pick up momentum across so many areas. Last time it was like for a while, or up until now, I would say it's been a one-dimensional, single-layer industry. It's now, crypto is becoming multi-layered and multi-opportunistic, bringing in multiple parties.
Yep. A rising tide lifts all ships, as they say. Right. But then you also look at it, often these stable coins will need to be facilitated through a blockchain. What blockchain is that? It might be ETH, it might be Solana.
Right,
So
there's knock-on effects.
Yeah, there is knock-on effects.
Benefits.
So I get where you're looking from an investing perspective. I can't make money off a stable coin, right? But if you do the proper due diligence and look into it, then you can find some real value.
It's not really that the make money part. It's more just the I think we can do better than just stablecoins is the big thing
Oh,
that
and we will.
cryptocurrency
We will.
does. And it's like,
Well, I think, I mean, listen, I think it would depend what lens. I mean, when you say you can't make money, have a look at the Forex traders. There's plenty of people that have made millions and billions of dollars through Forex trading, which is essentially fiat currency trading.
True.
So that is going to happen as well.
between
There will be. It will be a different thing. I mean, while lots of individuals are probably making, their money through altcoins and trading up through altcoins, stablecoins give institutions the opportunity to kind of trade up and make money generally.
Yep.
So I think it's different assets for different coins and tokens for different people and different classes.
Great. I'm going to circle back to Swyftx. So what about trading demographics? What's your typical Swyftx user look like? Are they still, punters who are looking to make a quick return on an altcoin, or are they putting their retiring portfolio into crypto? What does a user look like at Swyftx?
Ted, it's changed. From when Swyftx 5 years ago first started, it was all the new early adopters and young people really getting into it. They are still there. But by number of customers out of that 800,000 plus, the Gen Y and millennial younger demographic make up the most number. Mm-hmm. But of the dollar values of trades and the dollar values on our platform, it's the 45-year-old plus person. So we're seeing that separation or that real distinctness. So new people are still flowing in at a great rate, and they are still learning, and they're investing what they have. Some of them are traders, some of them are hodlers. But with the 45 demographic, we're seeing a lot of successful business people that have made money in traditional businesses. Maybe it's a construction business, maybe it's in the motor industry business, maybe it's in professional services. They are investing a portion of their portfolio. Some are trading, some are investing a portion of their portfolio. The other segment that we would see, which is kind of tied up with that, is the SMSFs. A lot of people are using, because SMSFs tend to be a little bit more of a passive investment. People are investing in that. There's more restrictions around it. You tend to hang on to your assets in there less, and people are allocating a percentage of their SMSF to crypto. So we're seeing a big inflow of money coming through from that.
Less about trading, it's more about just getting exposure.
For many of the SMSFs, for two reasons, Tommy, I think there. One is that traditionally that's the purpose of an SMSF is to hold for the long term, but also to do with their investment statements and the mandates that are required from them. It's much harder to kind of trade. If you want to trade, you would typically trade in an entity outside your SMSF.
I think the assumption that I think we're using, at least internally, is the fact that your big industry retail funds or your big industry funds will not give you access to digital assets within the funds. So a lot of people that normally wouldn't look at self-managed super funds are actually turning to self-managed super funds to get the exposure that they want. And people are going, like I said, to, I don't know if I'd call them extreme lengths, but they're going out, they're meeting with their financial advisors, they're speaking with accountants, they're spending their money to get the self-managed super funds set up just so they can get exposure to crypto, Bitcoin, whatever it is that they want to have within that portfolio, which is I think it's a signaling indicator in itself. That type of a movement. Wait for the day that the retail funds or those big industry funds will give you direct exposure to crypto. I think that's like, where's the puck going? Where are we skating to? That's where I think we're headed. I just don't know how far away it is.
Look, everyone is aspirational. It's on a spectrum how aspirational they are and what risks they will take, but you can't deny that Bitcoin has had the highest return of really any asset class over the last 10 years. You're sitting back, it's FOMO. Yep. People are going, and that's just Bitcoin. Look at many of the other coins as well. Yep. So people are sitting back with FOMO going, I'm missing out on this. The world is moving ahead if I'm not participating in crypto.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening.
No, that's what I love to see as well, because that kind of, you kind of look at it from that lens of these people are investing in crypto or Bitcoin in particular, long-term lens, right? Whereas often we'll talk to other people in the industry, they're like, I've got to make the most of this upcoming bull market, then, got to cash out. But these people are saying, no, I believe in this crypto industry long term. I believe in the intrinsic value of Bitcoin. I'm going to put my, some of my retirement or savings into this asset class, and let it sit there and accrue value over time. So it's good to see.
I think with the other customer segment that you mentioned, Jason, the small businesses, SMEs, these kind of enterprises.
Yeah, the high net worth individuals.
I kind of see those as, we're all in the industry, we're all familiar with MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, and basically they turned a company strategy into let's acquire as much Bitcoin as possible at a pretty opportune time, and they've completely changed their business model. I can't remember the numbers exactly, Ted, but they're massively up on their Bitcoin investment, and that's something they probably went to the opposite end of the spectrum where they've gone all in. But I definitely see that as a trend coming through the Australian market where, these types of businesses, you mentioned construction businesses, car dealerships, these kind of small businesses are using the asset as essentially a treasury asset to create value and maintain value.
I think that's, I didn't actually speak of that, but I think that's happening too.
Yeah.
So I think the proprietors, the owners of these companies, have become very successful. They are seeing in their own portfolio that they're wanting to invest a portion of that portfolio into crypto. But additionally, what I'm seeing is their companies and other private companies, and I think if you're a financial controller, CFO of these companies as well, you want to think about it. A lot of these companies are accumulating cash on the balance sheet. What's happening with cash? It gets eroded by inflation sitting there. Should you change all of that into Bitcoin? No. But what do you want cash for? You want it for liquidity. Bitcoin, for example, and the other blue chips have lots of liquidity. They have immediate liquidity. That's right. So why wouldn't companies, and this is for, it doesn't have to be strategies of publicly listed companies and large corporations. This can be, smaller, locally based companies. Why wouldn't you look, if you had a balance sheet with a lot of cash that you're sitting there, why wouldn't you convert some of that into a very liquid Bitcoin or some other blue chip crypto, a portion of it?
I have a very, very quick story on your liquidity point about Bitcoin. When I was going for my mortgage for my house, I was trying to use some Bitcoin that I had as a collateral asset, to get my rates down and get a better deal from the bank. And the bank manager or the loans guy that was sitting with me, he said, we don't like crypto because, you can't get your money out of it. And I opened my Swyftx app, sold $100 worth of Bitcoin on the spot, hit the withdraw button, instant withdrawal, landed in my CommBank account, and I showed him, look, I've just liquidated while we're having this conversation. It took me, I think, about 10 seconds to sell and withdraw back to my bank account, and he just blew his mind, didn't know. But sorry, just on the point of liquidity, I think it's a misconception as well.
It's been a misconception
for some time that it's
Absolutely.
not as liquid as it is, especially when you're talking about those blue chips. But
I think the industry certainly has had this perception that crypto existed. And it's, let's face it, it was one of the theses as to why the cryptography industry started about, or the crypto industry started about, was to be totally separate to the monetary, existing system. That's not happening. That was the case. Some people still believe it, but it is blending. It is blending. So what you're seeing is exactly that, Tommy.
Yeah.
Your Swyftx account simply was able to convert straight into your fiat bank account. We're going to see a lot more
in
of that
10
happening.
seconds.
In 10 seconds.
That's right.
And with a fraction of the cost as if you were to do it through transferring from one bank to the next.
That's right. That's right.
Did you change his mind?
Oh no, absolutely not.
He ended up lending.
No, he's like, that's cool. You're still not getting any money.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Jason, I got some questions, rapid fire questions.
All right.
Ready to go?
Bring it on, Tommy.
Roll up
Let's
your sleeves,
see
mate.
how I go with these.
Bitcoin or ETH?
Both, but definitely Bitcoin ahead of ETH at the moment.
Okay. Want to expand at all on that one?
Want to expand on that at all?
One line expansion.
One line. I love the limited supply of Bitcoin.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's
Perfect
what
answer.
does it for me.
Tommy, you're defeating the purpose of rapid fire.
Yeah, look,
All
let
right.
me do my thing. You know how
I'll try and make the specific answers. Too. Maybe
you're
that's
right.
That's right. Satoshi Nakamoto, real person or myth?
Yeah, I think it's a pseudonym for someone else, but I think whoever Satoshi was, we're all going to keep trying to find him. I'm not sure if I do want to find him. I actually just like believing, and I like what he's created. Regardless of who he is or she is, I just love what's been created.
I'm with you. I
You
think
can't
we're
pin it
better
on
off.
someone. You can't shut it down if you don't know who it is, right?
Exactly right.
That's
I
what
think
we
we're
thought.
better off without not knowing.
First thing you do in the morning, check the markets or emails? I think you
Emails.
already told us.
Emails first, but market's pretty quick after that.
Will smart contracts or AI have a bigger impact?
I think both are going to have a huge impact, but I think the more immediate impact we're going to see is through AI. Lots of hype around it. There's a lot of use cases coming. Don't discount smart contracts, but AI first.
Love it. Last one. One word that describes the current market.
Interesting. And slower than I expected to jump into a bull market when you look back at the historical trends of the crypto industry.
Look, Jason, we've had a very lengthy conversation. We've got a lot of insights out of you today. I want to finish off on a little bit more of a personal note. You mentioned, your day in the life as a CEO before, and it exhausted both Tommy and I just listening to it. So we want to know how you sort of recharge and maintain your creativity and your executive mindset at the top of the ship with Swyftx in your time off.
Well, I don't get as much exercise as I would love, but I love getting out on my exercise. I got a bunch of mates that I get out and I cycle around the place in, so love that. And when I can get some time with the family, love to get up to my farm and see how my cattle are going. I'll do some breeding of some cattle.
Nice.
And love to sort of get out on the boat, but I don't get to enjoy any of those anywhere near as much as I can. But when I do, they are definitely recharges for me. And for me, my exercise regime is a good recharge. I don't tend to listen to too much music or anything. I just kind of zone out a little bit. It's my little bit of peaceful time. But I do occasionally listen to some podcasts, though.
Nice. Yeah, of course. You got to add the one in. Just you and your own thoughts, hey?
I thought you were going to drop the Step Brothers question on him.
Which one was that?
How much money do you make after taxes per year? I thought you were going to drop into that one.
Oh yeah, we'll finish on that.
It varies.
No.
It varies from year to year.
We won't go into that one. I just
maybe after you tell us what you make.
I had it in my head you were going to drop that one too because you're in a funny mood this afternoon. But anyway.
Well, after you tell us how much crypto you own, then I'll ask that to Jason.
Okay, let's put it off to the next day.
Yeah.
Next time you have me on the podcast, I can be ready for that question.
That's it. We'll have to get you on soon. But thank you so much for joining us, Jason. We really appreciate you coming on in your busy schedule. We learned a lot today. Obviously, a lot of the listeners will appreciate you giving us some insights on industry and also Swyftx. I think next time we might dive into more regulation because you've talked a lot about that's probably coming in the next 12 to 24 months, probably going to impact us here in Australia as well. So if you're keen to join us on again, we'd love to have you.
Look, I think regulation is only going to be a good thing in the main.
Yep.
So I think everybody should feel confident about that, not fear that. We're certainly taking an active role in that, and we're looking forward to that. But yeah, Ted and Tommy, thank you guys. As I said, I've been an active listener of your podcast. I've enjoyed the topics that you talk about. Welcome this opportunity. I know with my schedule it's taken a little while to get me on, but thanks for the chat, and hopefully listeners did get something out of it. And if I get invited back, I'll see what I can do about coming back to have another chat.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Tommy, maybe we'll get you back on sometime soon if you're willing.
We'll see what the people say.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Jess.
Chat to you next week.
Thanks, boys.